You're listening to Driving Place-Based Innovation, a podcast series by Newcastle Gateshead Initiative, produced in partnership with the digital tourism think tank. I'm Nick Hall, and I'll be your host for this series where we're going to be looking at how digital and technology innovation is driving transformation of North East England's visitor economy. Throughout the series, we'll be sitting down with organisations near and far, balancing a local perspective where we hope to shine a light on innovation in and around Newcastle with global perspectives, bringing together learnings from further afield. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to be sure that you don't miss out on future episodes. For more information about the series or to get in touch, just head over to ngi.org.uk/podcast, where you'll be able to find out more information and how to get involved. In this episode, we'll be hearing from the Alnwick Garden about the importance of innovation as a key component to keeping those real-life experiences engaging and encouraging curiosity and playfulness as part of a transformative experience that we have in person. We'll also be checking in with Barcelona-based startup Explorins, who are proudly Bee certified and Biosphere certified. They'll be talking about the importance of applying a threefold methodology of culture, society, and technology when looking at how technologies like augmented reality can truly augment real-life experiences and give a platform to communities to tell their own story in context. So sit back, enjoy, and don't forget to hit subscribe.
It's good to be here. My name's Ian McAllister, and I'm the Strategic Head of Marketing and Communication at the Alnwick Garden. The Alnwick Garden is a tourist attraction based in Northumberland. We are a charity, and we've got a variety of things to tell you about today that goes on at the garden.
So maybe to get oriented a little bit at the beginning of this interview, tell us a little bit about the garden, the experience, what's on offer, what visitors can expect, perhaps if they haven't been there before.
Yeah, of course, no problem. The first thing you see when you walk into the Alnwick Garden, it's the most iconic and probably most photographed part of the garden, is the Grand Cascade, which is an enormous fountain that's the centerpiece of our garden. The garden was designed by Verts, the company, and we've been open for just over 20 years now. So the garden itself is 12 acres of basically garden with rose gardens, bamboo labyrinth, a poison garden, a cherry blossom, which I can tell you all about sort of later on in the podcast. What the point of the garden, it was opened by the Duchess of Northumberland, who's our patron. And the idea was always not to be an RHS garden or a sort of National Trust type property. It's a stage, and it's basically a garden where kids, families, anybody and everybody can run free and use it as they wish. So the tagline of "It's your garden" has always been prevalent for everybody and anyone, to the point that there's mini tractors in front of the cascade where kids scoot up and down, squirting water over their family and friends.
So it's really a place that encourages playfulness, encourages this multi-sensorial discovery, and really, as you say, is something that people can embrace and feel their own sense of place when they're there. How important is innovation in creating these different multi-sensory experiences? You talked about cherry blossom, for example. I know that this is always one of those things that trends really well on social, for example. And I guess you often have to transcend kind of consumer and digital trends where people are searching and seeking something, as well as thinking about your communities and audiences and how the gardens can give something meaningful to them.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. In terms of innovation, we have to be constantly thinking of how we evolve. And obviously, in the age that we are, and also in the location that we are, we have to constantly think of people that can't access this or don't have time to access us for whatever reason. And cherry blossom's a great example. So we've got the world's largest Taihaku cherry blossom orchard in the world. So it's 329 trees that only blossom for 2 weeks a year, and that's usually towards the end of April, beginning of May. We get a lot of people that ask us from Christmas, when's the blossom blossoming, as if it's a perfect science that we know exactly when the blossom's going to come out. So in order to mitigate this, from usually February, March, what we do is we've now introduced a live cam. So we've got Blossom Watch. So we've mounted a camera to a wall, and you can tune in to our website from those times and watch the trees as they move into this incredible blossom, watch it throughout the 2 weeks, and then watch it drop. So everybody across the world can see it. And it's incredible how many people will sit glued to a screen watching not much happen for hours on end.
That's incredible. And it's a great example of, I think, how you've got something that is an entirely natural experience that is incredible. And of course, I think it's quite clear that there's nothing quite like actually being there. But also, there's this opportunity to tell the story around that and to create this medium between your visitors, audiences perhaps further away, through technology, which brings them closer to that experience. And of course, by doing that, also creates this really powerful inspirational cycle that hopefully eventually brings them to Alnwick Gardens, if not that year, in a future year. Tell us a little bit about the role of technology generally. I mean, you mentioned accessibility as being a really key thing. Do you use technology throughout different touch points throughout the visitor experience?
We want to embrace technology to the point where we had a VR app, an AR app recently. We had a giant trail. We had augmented reality where you could take selfies with the giants that were in the background. But then on the flip side, we want kids to put their phones away and enjoy the crafts that we give them and the colouring and the trails and the nature trails. So there's always these two parts of us that are almost arguing amongst ourselves. And normally it's just the left side of my brain and the right. So I'm arguing with myself. We do embrace technology in a manner of ways. So Google Arts and Culture, we did a huge project with them, and we were one of their flagship projects when they launched their new garden platform. So for that, we did quite a lot of walkthrough videos, accessibility videos. We did some ASMR in our ornamental garden, which is a really beautiful, tranquil spot. We engaged with a company recently who made a 365 accessibility video from 2 points of view. One was a wheelchair user, and one was his partner who wasn't. So we've got two walkthrough videos now, so people can see the site before they come. Um, Google Street View, we've obviously got a lot of Street View stuff within the garden. But during the pandemic, a big thing for us was our poison garden. So the poison garden is largest poison garden in Europe, and we couldn't offer tours in the same way that we used to because of people not being able to gather in groups. So we introduced a whole QR code system. So for each plant, you could zap a QR code and see a YouTube of the guide telling you about the plant. So we've embraced it where we can without trying to remove anything from the aesthetic or the experience of the visitor.
Yeah, and I guess as you really eloquently explained, there is this conflict that I think many of us often face, not only in tourism, but when we think about arts and culture. As you mentioned, Google Arts and Culture have done something incredible in opening up so many wonderful places and experiences to the whole world in such rich kind of HD format that is truly immersive. But at the same time, we want people to come to experience, to not only see that through a screen, but also experience that in person. And yet we recognize that for some people, that's not possible. And these digital mediums represent an opening up and an accessibility solution. It's really interesting to see how you've been able to work with different, pretty immersive mediums to both encourage and enable people to see and take themselves through the gardens, but also for learning. So, for example, as you were saying with the QR codes, which have become very familiar during COVID, have now allowed us to provide portals to more information, whether it's about a particular plant or a tree. This serves as a really powerful kind of educational medium. And of course, if we look forward to 2023, where we are right now at the start of the year, you have some really exciting developments in the pipeline. You've got the Lilidorei play park, and there's some really interesting ideas coming here. So tell us a bit about what to expect there.
Oh, well, this year's a big year for us. So it's a made up word, really. So again, from the Duchess, her vision is that it's Lilidorei. So we need to try to think of a way to use the word so that people can pronounce it correctly. It's Lilidorei, and the whole concept, as I've sort of alluded to with the garden, the whole concept is for children to come, put away their phones, put away their devices, and use their imagination. So it's a £15.5 million project, which was partially funded by Borderlands, who are a rural sort of funding enterprise, and also from private investors, from shareholders. It's an adventure village with the concept based around Christmas. So there's 9 clans that live in the kingdom of Lilidorei, all working towards Christmas. The idea being that children come and make their own adventure. So we're not providing children with a narrative or a storyline or actual physical characters or a map or anything at all. The whole point is to move away from technology, move away from the constant input of what children are being told how to enjoy things. So they will come to us, and I'm older than you are, but I used to have choose your own adventure books when I was young, and you'd get to the end of a chapter and decide whether the adventurer jumped over a cliff or went down a tunnel. So the idea is that kids will come, and every single child that comes will have their own adventure, and they'll make their own story out of it. The center point of it is the world's largest play structure. So it's going to be a 29-meter play structure with slides and walkways and tunnels and kind of all sorts of things that kids can just spend hours wearing themselves out on. And then the clan houses, there's 9 clans that live there. So the different clan houses will have an immersive sound system. So we've spent a huge amount of money on a sound system that's got surround sound and sound that kind of follows you around, along with, there's over 20 miles so far of fairy lights that will be on the site. So the idea being that we'll be telling this story and kind of creating this environment with light and sound, as opposed to actual technology and signposting kids as to what to look at and where to listen to it.
So really interesting to see how we kind of faced with these challenges and these contradicting elements when it comes to experiencing the world around us and cutting ourselves off through technology. And I think what you've actually described here sounds so fascinating. I think people will be really, really excited to go and see that and to take their kids and to see how they interact with this space. But at the same time, I think you seem to have applied many of the principles when we think about creating an amazing digital experience to a real world experience. And in fact, created this audio immersive environment, which is also very interesting because it does seem to lend some things from the virtual world into this physical experience. Perhaps before we close off, how do you generally kind of see the opportunities when we think about augmented reality and the way in which this can, in fact, create entirely new experiences in a physical place? Perhaps not completely disconnecting people from where they stand, but actually augmenting that experience of where they are. And I ask this because we have coming up the interview with Angela and Danielle from Explorins, who are really working to give voices to communities that don't always have their story told, and to put that in the context of a particular place or a particular experience. So you mentioned this juxtaposition and this contradiction that sometimes you face internally. Where do you see opportunities for technologies like this in the gardens?
I think I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, so we are a charity. So we have a whole host of community and education programs, ranging from what we call the Young Gardeners up to our Elderberries program. Now, the Elderberries are 55 and over, suffering from loneliness, isolation, dementia within our community. For a lot of these over 55s, they're way over 55, so they're probably 80 plus, which means that their accessibility and their mobility is hugely limited. Once a week, there's a walking group that walks around the garden, and it takes them a good 2 hours just to walk around the garden, which is not a huge distance, but they do it at their own pace. And we've always discussed the use of something like an augmented reality or a virtual reality world. So if they could have for example, an Oculus headset, if they could sit in the Elderberries room, which is a drop-in room where they have tea and biscuits and like a nice environment, if they could sit there and experience everything that everybody else in the garden can experience. So some of them can't stay on their feet for too long. So a poison garden tour, which takes half an hour to an hour, is out of the question. The ornamental garden, which is right at the top of the garden, is quite a hike. So again, it's something that people would miss out on. So if we could try to introduce that experience that people can take away from the garden and still enjoy, that would be incredible.
That was Ian McAllister from Alnwick Garden telling us about the opportunity to see technology through the lens of what it can do to enhance everyday experiences in even some of the most natural environments. Now we head over to Barcelona-based startup Explorins, and we hear from them about the importance of seeing technology through the lens of social impact and how it can provide an interface between cultures, people, and places. Let's have a listen to what Angela Bustillos and Daniel Ferrer, the two co-founders of Explorins, had to say.
My name is Angela Bustillos, and I am one of the co-founders of Explorins, CMO. So my role is pretty much on the strategy, marketing, communication area or side. About my background, I'm a professional on communication and marketing, and have been working advertising agency for a long time. The first part of my career, and I have been working on advertising agency. And now with Explorins is kind of we will talk about that later. But we use creativity and technology in a way to build cities of the future through experience. So my role and my background is came together in this lovely project.
My name is Daniel Ferrer. I'm another co-founder of Explorins, and I'm more responsible for the technical part, the implementation, but also, of course, the strategy. So as Angela beautifully said, we are about creativity, culture, and technology. So creativity, we are both, and I'm the technology part in that sense. My background is I'm born and raised in Munich. I came across economics, had like an adventurous time in urbanism, urban planning, and then I jumped into the field of technology. So basically, as you might imagine, this project is not only a very emotionally fulfilling and fun adventure, it's also very much kind of an expression of my professional journey so far.
Great. Now, today we're going to really focus on innovation and the role that technology can play in that. We will certainly unpackage Explorins and exactly how you're applying technology to this sense of urban transformation, because it's something that I think is really exciting and people will be fascinated to hear about. But perhaps to take a top level view, perhaps I can invite you to tell us a bit about Explorins, the vision behind Explorins, and how it comes together. What exactly is Explorins at the core?
We have been across many concepts, and we have grown so much. But right now, basically, we can define Explorins as a creative hub based in Barcelona, where we create interactive digital experiences. It's all about experiences here for projects of city dynamization and experiential marketing, where the local culture is the one that create and build the whole storytelling in order to achieve triple sustainable goals. So about the sustainability, we want to talk a little bit later, but we build these standalone apps or the digital products for city councils, but also for private companies to show a new way to marketing their products and service.
So, what is the idea behind Phygital? Because it really represents a place that we seem to be at today with technology, where it's no longer about just the interface and the screen, but the way in which we interact with our surroundings. How does that look with Explorins? Tell us a bit about the solutions and how your users are actually interacting and kind of recreating new experiences through technology.
Basically, it's like we're deeply confessed that as long as we are made from bones and blood, and we like a real experience always from our point of view always should be somehow in real life. This is very much our own conviction. However, at the same time, as we can see, like the possibilities that the whole digital devices, software, technologies give us to build something, to experience something in a new way is incredibly, right? So in that sense, we are trying to bring together those two words. We're not talking about those ideas of the metaverse where we only talk about our own avatar doing something instead of us. No, but we also like taking advantage, taking use of technology that is out there to enhance the experience that we could have in real life. We will probably definitely give some more examples later on, but we're here talking about, for instance, something that we have been doing a lot is augmented reality virtual art galleries. So we are converting a street, a place, a physical place into an exposition of art without actually doing it. We just put those items there in a virtual way, and with the help of devices, you can experience it, but still being out there in the real world. This is very much what we referring at phygital.
And so, does this recreation of digital experiences in the real world allow us to create an almost infinite way of experiencing places? Does it allow us to completely reinvent the way in which we interact with the spaces around us? And what kind of opportunities do you see this creating and opening up?
Well, I think what is the fascinating part in this is that the help of a digital layer, you can experiment way more. You can like try out things that you would definitely, or that you can check out easily, quickly, play around with something that you would not necessarily build at the place. I mean, as I said in the beginning, I had my background in urban planning, which is the slowest industry ever, because it takes like forever to plan something, to actually change the built environment. And with the thing of using the digital, putting digital layers on top of it, you can do something way quicker, play around with something. You can also have like different layers on the same thing because they are not interfering with each other. But of course, at the same time, it's probably never reaching the same thing that is like the actual built environment. So we see ourselves then like in the step between more than an imagination, but less than being actually built. Also, like as a last thing, we having some projects with activistic movements from, let's say, for example, the LGBT environment, and they are building some stuff on a public square which would not be there necessarily, like a gay pride statue or monument in the middle of a square that would probably not exist there in the built environment, but it can be a super interesting experiment to play around with it. So in that sense.
Angela, what are some of the projects that excite you most that you've either worked on or you would perhaps even love to get involved with, where you can see the opportunity to use some of these technologies to create incredible, perhaps even temporary experiences?
I think the most the most coolest are the ones that are coming from a group or clients or targets that are very new as a storytellers. The communities of LGBTB, for example, or the ones that have a really specific story to tell and doesn't have a big opportunity to use these technologies because take time, because take money, because everything. So we are pretty much a bridge in between the technology and the culture. And when we say culture, we are talking about the culture that is building is right now in this moment on the street. Every type of people, or any type of gender, age, background, culture, etc. So that ones are that are basically the ones that build the cities every day, and we are part of that society, and we love the opportunities or the possibilities that bring explorers because it's based on a methodology that we create of triple impact that we can talk later. And it's not only a cultural activity, it's also a cultural activity that also helps these communities to achieve another goals, a local economy, a cultural impact, a social impact, an environmental impact, and in being the technology also, or using the technology for good, where we democratize the use and the learning of this new way of or the new technologies that are growing every day. So this, as freaky is the project, as most we enjoy to create, because it's always something new to combine things and put it together and see how the people can actually live the cities and see the cities in another perspective. That's something that we love so much. In my case, I love it to build this new creative and artistic projects using any type of new technology.
I think what I can definitely sense just discussing this with you is just how passionate you are, and I guess how much you believe in this, which is really, really something that you often don't see today. We talk about innovation, we talk about opportunities, and it's always with a kind of a sense of how we can grow, how we can make profit. But there is something much, much more profound in what you're describing, which is the kind of liberating opportunity that technology can create to address many of the things that we really want to be able to support. So whether that's accessibility to a certain platform, whether that's the opportunity to create engagement amongst the community, or to give a voice to communities that perhaps don't always have the platform to do so. So I think it's really interesting to hear you talk about this, and then to think about the application of that, which is not only a media channel, but it's an immersive place in which you can almost infinitely lose yourself within stories and experiences. Tell me a bit more about this idea of the triple impact then. So what's the thinking behind that methodology?
Well, the methodology is based on three pillars. One is the technology, the second is the social, and the third is the culture. So what we basically do is to, for each project, we have like a process, like three steps process, where we, at the beginning, we make as a research. It's always a co-creation process, okay? But the beginning is a kind of research that we do together with the client, and to understand what's the goal, what is the territory, what is the community doing, what like understand the whole context, and then we start to reimagine how we can make the narrative and how we can co-create a narrative that connect finally the culture, the technology, and the society in order to achieve a social, environmental, and economic impact. The idea is that we facilitate the process and we use the technology as the final channel. But it's very important to say that the narrative, the storytelling is 100% focused on the people and comes always from the local culture. So we don't invent, we don't create from nowhere. We create from the reality of that cities, of that territories, of that neighborhoods, of that communities. We connect with the technology to make it easier to get in, but also to amplify the way, as Daniel explained before, to using creative technology to reimagine the public space or reimagine the cities and connect in another ways, thinking always that something very very coming from the human perspective of Daniel, that the society as a public space. So you can see something different depends from the people that is telling you the story. The old man is going to tell you how they see that public space, and the mom with her kids is going to tell you how her and they see that space, and the skater is going to say another story. So 10,000 of people can see the same place in a different way. So the idea is that put that in a channel where people from another perspective with another visions can actually join. So we have here something very powerful that is connecting humans as human using the creativity.
And in that sense, like from the impact point of view, as we are giving this stage to activities on a smaller scale, we are giving them also the stage to participate economically, which then of course has a very positive impact in the communities where we are building stuff. At the same time, we also always try to have some sort of a bigger purposeful project involved, which means if we do some sort of a neighborhood dynamization project, and this goes very much hand in hand with, let's say, local commercial partners or whatsoever, we basically insist that there should always be some sort of an NGO or whatsoever that is already acting there locally to also participate in that project, to receive some donation if it's a project with where transactions are involved and stuff like that. We do this from not only from a personal, like, I mean, it's always nice to do such kind of projects, which is fun, which motivates you more to do it, but also from sustainability point of view in terms of the project, because this is what we believe easiest key to get locals involved into this project, and to make them support and help that this project's gonna be maintained in the future. Because like if locals are feeling that they're involved, if they are feeling that they some sort, maybe not even personally, but their community benefits from it, they are the ones who are the biggest promoters of that project. That's also like very much, I think, what Angela said with the thing. It's not about our stories. It's not that we are getting anywhere and coming up with like, hey, why not doing here a project about whatever? No, what's the thing that you guys are doing here, and how can we help you with some technology to highlight this, to promote it, to maybe show it in a different way, to have it in a more fun way of experiencing it.
And I guess when we always think about technology, there's always the concern that technology can get out of control when we think about the cost and the many hurdles that we can come across when we design any kind of user experience, including a kind of dispersed experience as you guys do, but also the kind of the runway of that experience. So where is it going, and how do you maintain that economically, and make sure that you also get enough traction, you get enough user you get enough users in the reach and engagement. Obviously, when we're working with such new technologies that are exciting, but perhaps we're still looking at a majority of the population that are perhaps either hesitant or don't really understand how to fully use these technologies. What are some of the barriers that you have found in the process, and how do you think about overcoming that, or getting that right?
Okay, wow, a complex question, wide-folded question. Well, first of all, yes, definitely, it's challenging to build with to work with technology, because, like by nature, you always have a huge, relatively huge investment in the beginning, and then once this one is running, it's easier to reply it. Right? That's basically the deepest nature of technology. Put it directly, a half application is not half as much fun. No, a half application is no fun at all. So basically, you need to have something done before you can, like, the first time touch any users, or get in touch with users. Sorry. But then that's the good thing is, once you have overcome this obstacle, you can easily repeat it by modifying some parameters without like designing it from the scratch again. So we are very much, and it took us a while, we are very much now relying on our own libraries, on things that we have already built. So we are basically working in a very modular way, where we try to put together stuff that we have already done, reuse as much as possible, and then adjust it to that specific project. So and this was also very much how it worked. In the beginning, it was way tougher to find those projects, and now we already know pretty well what we can do. We know what we already have done, and so it's getting easier, quicker, and better, I guess.
So the key, I guess, for you guys is building a technical a model with reusable components, and then being able to build libraries that kind of exist within that and can totally change that experience from one place to another, but within a framework that you've built. And I guess this is also really a key lesson, because there's many startups like you guys that have built something truly unique, and it's taken I guess it's taken a long time to go through those pain points to work out what works really well from a user perspective, what also hasn't worked really well, and to keep optimizing that. And I guess we're at a different point in time to maybe 7-8 years ago, where perhaps a museum or a place, a neighborhood, might have invested in creating something like this themselves directly. But today, this is really difficult to do because of the complexity of technology. So are you finding yourself also uh, adapting your model in order to work within other people's projects and to build something that's sort of scalable, but completely adaptable depending on where and how that's going to work?
I think one thing that was really key in that sense was also, I mean, this is the famous path dependency. In in the beginning, we also came out with the idea. No, we build an application, and like all the experiences that we gonna build, they're gonna be in that application. Like following this first model of now it's all about having everything in your application, and that worked pretty well in some cases, particularly when we work with public administration. For them, it was very handy to have it already hosted in an application that somehow working. So then also we benefited from their communication, which helped us to get more users. However, there was another thing that when we worked with private companies, we easily came into some sort of a branding conflict, because the feedback from their side was very much, "Hey, it's really cool what you're doing. we really like the idea. We like your proposal. We like your projects. However, I mean, we have our own IT whatsoever system. We have our own concept here, and we don't really see how our brand is fitting within your application. Also, like, we don't want to have our content next to other people's content, because then this is not like Instagram is already there. We don't need another Instagram. So with that feedback in mind, this is when we pushed it very much more and more towards the thing of being super modular and having most of this stuff built within our own application, but also do this third-party integration or even build standalone applications for those private clients. And then, of course, I mean, we try to reuse some of the infrastructure, some of the architecture, but we really want to build it customized, and that helps a lot in gaining that traction, having basically building it for our clients' users instead of trying to find our own users and then get the critical mass out of that.
And I think another, like from the outside, another challenge has have been that the companies, or well, talking about public sector, but also private sector, they want something new, they want experience, but at the same time they don't know how to do it. So that's why we are not only creating this technology part, or creating all these components to make it easier to this modular project, but also we are very much right now as a creative hub or creative tech hub, where we develop also the ideas, and we take the soul of the brand or the city, and try to connect with the goals of that projects, using the experience and the technology as the channel, as we mentioned before, but with purpose. So this is fascinating. I mean, this is one of the part that we love so much, that is to understand their businesses, their soul, that their storytelling, and why they are doing all of this. That is not, it's not only the final product or service, it's the reason to believe of their brands. So we take this and we connect using that, or creating those experiences. So this is pretty much something lovely that we love so much, but it's a challenge in order to show what we can create. That can be anything, but that is a challenge, because we are not used, or the marketing directors are not used to, because they don't know that much. And we want to bring that patient, or that reliable, and to show that it's going to be easier, can be great. So it's a process, because it's the market is in the halfway, of this transformation and this way to marketing products and services.
I think you've certainly shown what you can bring and what you're capable of through both the Explorins application and all of the experiences that exist within that, and so many new experimentations, from discovering this kind of AR art to actually owning that with NFTs and things that we hear a lot about, but many of the people listening will still be trying to connect. What exactly does all of this mean? But there is another meaning that sits behind your work, and I think, Angela, you've very eloquently articulated just how important that sense of value and purpose that sits behind the work is, and how much this must be right at the core of every project and every decision you take. And you've also worked hard to get recognition for that. So today, Explorins is B Corp certified, and also is Biosphere certified, which is a huge accomplishment when the many people around the world, many businesses around the world, recognize the importance of sustainability and changing the way we do things. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what those two programs mean, and how difficult it's been, or how much work it's been within yourselves as a business to apply all of the necessary factors to also be considered a truly sustainable business.
We are a B Corp certificate and Biosphere certificate company. Is cool, and it's funny because it's a tech, creative hub, win this certificate, and we're pretty much in a couple of sides, like the tourist sector, but also the cultural and the communication sector. So we are a hybrid, no? We as experience as our products, so as experimental as our products. So we are very unique on this way on representing this certificate. They are very difficult, yes, to get it, because they have a really high standards process, where they evaluate the governance, the workers, the community, the environment, the customers, all that the company has inside and outside. But we are lucky because we born with this mindset of impact. Maybe we didn't think on that words in that moment, like a specific, like, oh, let's make triple impact. But we are very into how we can create things or activities or products that actually are good for more than one person, for more than one community. How we can make it good for the society or for the city, even that is if it can be 10%, 10% or can be a whole city, like how we can do better for others, and thinking on that way. We have created all this system or the methodology. We have been recognized for that. For example, this last year, 222, we have honored with the certificate or the award, the award of the best for the world by B Corp in the category of governance. So that's something that that tell us that we are doing, we are in a good path in order to deliver not only cool projects and cultural interesting projects, but also in order to achieve sustainability in the way that we can, no? Because every company is different, every sector is different, but we have found a place where we feel comfortable. So that's those certificates that help us to, for one side, to being reliable, of course, because you get a position with this, but also you get a community, and we want, and we are building and helping visionary brands and companies with purpose to create their own interactive cultural experiences. So that's pretty unique, and we are very proud to work and to have more and more, and we're very looking forward to have more clients that want this goal, that want for real this work to work on. To be that company or that project that helps them to do it. So Yes, it's an interesting part, the sustainability sector. It is a lot to do there.
Just to say congratulations on the huge achievement, because it's to achieve those two recognition labels. It's not easy. These are very, very highly regarded, perhaps amongst the most regarded labels when it comes to sustainability, and they're not awarded easily. You have to really, really make very, very rigorous and thorough changes and steps within your processes, your decision, even related to how profit is invested, the ownership in the company, to get that. So it's a big achievement, and I think you certainly represent this future generation of businesses built on purpose. Daniel, sorry, you were going to say something there.
Well, thank you. I was just going to say that also there's in terms of like I like to jump into fields which are not mine, so I'm jumping into communication. No, but in terms of communicating our services, our brand, our company, they have also a very strong signaling impact, because before that it was, as Angela said, also for us achieving those certificates. Yes, it's a challenging process. However, we were, as she said, lucky, because there was already very much of that mindset of those processes going on. So we did not really have to change. Also, we're a young company, which is also always easier. But we had those things, those projects, those mindsets. We did that to a certain amount already. But then explaining what we are doing was always like twofolded. So like on one side, we had to explain about the purposeful ideas that we're having, and then the other hand, you have to talk about your product, because being purposeful is nice. That's beautiful. Everybody likes it, but in the end, people want your project. So it's about your project, and if it's then purposeful, that's super important. So for us, the communication in that sense was always a little bit like where we heading at. And since we have those certificates, they help us a lot of not necessarily go that much into this sustainability purposeful part, because those certificates, as they are strong and internationally well-known certificates, they already represent a lot of that. So which is cool, because then we can focus more on the communication of our projects, and having those certificates like showing that there's more behind of it. And also, like, maybe even last part, not only that we get in touch with really a very interesting community of other B Corps, but also they serve very much as guidelines, because it's like they get renewed, B Corp every 3 years, and Biosphere every year. And then that process of renovation, there are challenges coming from them. They also guide you to have like best practices processes. They are auditing you, but also not in the way of, oh, I have to pass a test. No, it's also like a very, very good feedback for a company to fulfill and to go towards the direction of best practice.
You've been listening to Place-Based Innovation with myself, Nick Hall. The producer of this series is Ana Balaguer Sanchez, production and editing by Dan Hopkins. The series is part of the Hospitality Innovation Tourism Supply Programme, which supports businesses in Northumberland, Newcastle and North Tyneside to meet challenges through innovation. The programme is funded by North of Tyne Combined Authority and delivered by Newcastle Gateshead Initiative, Food and Drink Northeast and NBSL. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to get notified of future episodes. And if you've enjoyed today's podcast, why not take a moment to leave a review? Thanks, and we'll see you next time.